Hey everyone, welcome back to Multi Magics channel. I'm Bhavita and you're watching Full Stack Web Development series where we learn by doing. In the last video in CSS, we have completed the essential properties, that is nothing but the CSS syntax and selectors, colors, text and fonts, as well as the CSS backgrounds and the CSS box model. In this video, we are going to see all these topics: CSS display, position, z-index, pseudo classes, pseudo elements and flexbox, grid, CSS units, CSS transitions, CSS animations and media queries. Without any delay, let's get into the video. Let's know one by one. Here is the first topic in this part 2, that is nothing but the CSS display. What is mean by the CSS display? The display property in the CSS controls how HTML element appears on the page. Either it may be in the block or inline items or even disappear from the page. Just think it of telling the browser how to show the element. In this CSS display, we are going to discuss the four values. First one is the block, and second one inline, and third one inline block, and fourth one is none. Let's see all these example one by one. Okay, let's open the VS Code. In part 2 CSS display folder, let's open index.html file. In this, I'm going to give the title as CSS display. Coming to the body session, in this, I'm going to give the comment as like block example. First, we are going to discuss this block example. In this, I'm going to create one heading. I'm going to use the h2 tag. In this, let's give the heading as like display block. In this, I'm going to use the div. In this div, I'm going to use the two divs here. One is for the block one. Let me remove this b, and let's create another div with text as block 2. Okay, for this, let's assign the class also. Let's assign the class as block. For this, I'm going to assign the class as box. For this also, I'm going to assign the class as box. Okay, let's create all these tags for rest of the values also for inline. Later I will explain all those things one step at a time. Okay, let's give the comment here for inline example. In this also, I'm going to take the heading tag here. Let's give the heading as like display inline. In this, I'm going to use the div tag. In this div tag, I'm going to use the span here, span tag. Under the span tag, I'm going to give like inline one, the text as like inline one, and let's create another span. In this, I'm going to give as like inline 2. Okay, for this also, let's assign the classes. Let's give the class as like inline, because this is inline, so that's why I'm providing the class as like inline. And this, let's assign the class as box. For this, let's assign the class name as box, because we are going to style all these elements Okay, let's assign for this also same as box. Okay, we have created for the inline example. Okay, next one is the inline block. Okay, in this, I'm going to give the heading tag first, and this also display property. The value is inline block, right? Okay, perfect. In this, I'm going to create the div tag. Under the div, I'm going to create another two divs. In this, I'm going to give as like text as box A. Let's create another div with text box B. Sorry, div as box B. Okay, we have created under the div, we have created two divs. Okay, let's assign the classes for this also. Let's assign class as like this is for inline block, right? So let's give the class name as inline block. Okay, okay, let's assign the class for this also. Class is box, right? Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, let's assign for this also for box B. Let's set the class name as same as box. Okay. Here the next last value we have is the none. Let's give like none example. And this also I'm going to take the heading tag h2, give the heading as display none. Okay. In this, let's create the div. Under the div, I'm going to use the two divs. In this, I'm going to give the text as like visible box. Let's create another div. In this, I'm going to give the text as like hidden box. Sorry, hidden box. Okay, let's assign the class for this also. Class is none, and let's assign the class name as box here. By using this box, we are going to apply few styles here. Okay, perfect. We have created the HTML code for the block example and inline example, as well as the inline block and for the non example. I think you have aware of the HTML codes what I have written in this page. Okay, let's tile this all the things and let's know each value about the block and inline block as well as the none. Okay, let's open the CSS file and apply few styles and let's know about these values in the CSS file. Okay, before that, let's link the CSS file in HTML file. For that, we have used the link tag and specify the CSS file. Our CSS file is style.css. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. Let's give the few common styling for all the examples. For that, let's give the comment like common style. Okay, common style used in all example. These comments are very helpful to understand the code. Okay, in this I'm going to take the class as box. Here the class is denoted by the period and followed by the class name. If you observe in the index.html, we have assigned the class name as box for all this to apply the common styling. Okay, in this, before that, let me open the output. Okay, sorry. Okay, here is our output. Okay, perfect. In this box, let's set the padding as 10 pixels and margin as 5 pixels. Let's set the background color as light blue. Let's set the border also 1px with solid blue color. We have discussed all these properties in the previous classes. If you apply if you observe, all these styles are applied for my whole the values, because I have assigned the class for all class as box for all these examples. So my style has been applied for all this. Okay. Okay, let's see one by one. The first one is the display block. Okay, let's give the comment. Block display. Okay, what is mean by this display is block. Okay, here the div is the block level element by default. It will take the full width and starts on a new line. If you observe on the right side, here the block 1 and the block 2 as separated, and it has taken the full width. If I have the block 3, it will just start on the new line but not on the same line. This is the role the display block will place. In this, I have given the class name as block period followed by the class name for this div. If I give the property display is block, by default it also take the full width. If you observe, by default also it has taken the full width. But this property is, if you apply any block 3 or block 4 like that, it just take the full width and always starts on the new line. You can also set the width and the height for this. Let me give like here 100 pixels. If you observe, the width has been applied. But if you observe, it has taken the width 100 pixels, but it has not the block 2 has not started on the block 1 line. It has started on the new line, right? So this is the role of the block. It just take the full width or always starts on the new line but not on the same line. Okay. Okay, next we have the value is inline. Let's give like inline display. Okay, here what is mean by this display is inline. Here inline elements like the span does not starts with the next line. It just take the space as much as needed. For this, for the inline, you can't set the width and the height. Let me show you. In this I have given the span, right? Span is default the inline element. Okay, let's set the property for this also. In this I have assigned the class as inline span. If I give the display property as inline, for this we can't set the width and height. Let me show you. If I give like width here, width as 100 pixels, let's see, it is not going to be applied because this is inline element. We can't set the width and the height. Let's see for the height also. If I set the height as 200 pixels, here the height also has not been applied because this is inline. We can't set the width and the height. Okay. Okay, the next property we have is the inline. Okay, let me show you. Instead of span, I can also give like the div. Let me show you that one also. If I change here, instead of span, if I give the div, let me show you. By default, it has taken the full width, right? If I remove here, if I remove the span and if I give the div, now you can get the more clarity. It has taken as much as width needed, but not the full width, right? That's the role this inline will place. And coming to the inline block, let's give the command as inline block. Okay, now the inline block is best of both worlds. It just behaves like a inline and sits side by side. but it allows you to set the width and the height. If you set the width and height, it will act as like a block. Let me show you that one. For that, I have assigned the class name as inline block, right? Let me show you that one. For the inline block, I have assigned the class name as inline block. Okay. In this, if I give the display as inline block, let me give here the div. Okay. For at first, it has playing the role as like inline, means it has taken as much as needed. If you want to act like as a block, we have to set the width and the height. If I give like width, in this inline block we are going to we can set the values, width as well as the height. If I give like 200 pixels, it has taken the width, like, right? We can set also the height as, let me give like 100, not 100, let's just give as 50 pixels. Okay, it it will act as like a inline as well as the block. Okay, here the next one we have as display none. Let's give the comment as here none. In this we have assigned the class as none. Okay, here I'm going to assign set the class name as height. And let me show you why I have given here. Okay, for the none class, and I have set the class name as hide, right? I'm going to use here hide. If I give the display, observe the right side, the boxes has been visible, right? The visible box and the hidden box. If you observe clearly, if I give this property now, display none, the second box, the hidden box will be disappeared. Display none. Here the display none is used to hide the elements completely, because they won't be visible and take up the space on the page. If you observe here, only one box is visible, not the hidden box. Whenever we have applied the display none value, the hidden box got disappeared, right? This how this none value will place the role. And that's the display properties. You know how to control elements and behaves on your web page, like block, inline block, or hidden. Use them wisely for the clean layouts. Keep practicing for better knowledge. Let's move to the another topic. Here is our next topic, that is the CSS position. In this CSS, the position property controls how element is placed on a page. It just tells the browser how and where to place the element. There is a difference between the CSS display and the CSS position. In CSS display, it tells the browser how to show the element. But in CSS position, it just tells the browser how and where to place the element. There is a difference, right? Okay. Let's see the example to get the more clarity. Let me open the VS Code. In this CSS position, let's open index.html file. Let's set the title as CSS position example. Coming to the body session, I'm going to create the h2. In this, I'm going to give as like static. First one is the static. In this, let's take the div and give the text as like I stay in a normal flow. Okay. Let's assign the class as box static. Okay. Next one is for relative. Let's set the comments. For this also I'm going to give the comment here. Okay. In this, let's take the heading h2 tag, relative. Okay. In this also I'm going to take the div. In this div I'm going to give the text as like I'm shifted from my place. Okay. Next one is for absolute. Absolute. This also I'm going to take the h2. Let me remove here. Let's do in this third one. Let's give absolute, heading as absolute. Okay. In this, let's take the div. Let's assign the class as container. Under this div, I'm going to use another div. In this, I'm going to give the text as I float inside my container. Let's set the class name as box absolute. Absolute. Okay, let's assign the class here also. Class as box relative. Okay. And next one we have is fixed. In this also I'm going to use the heading tag h2. Both one is fixed. And this, let's take the div and give the text as like I stay. Let's give like I stay on screen while you are scrolling. Okay. Next one we have sticky, right? Let me, okay. Sticky. In this also I'm going to take the heading tag h2. And this, let's give like sticky. Under we have given the div. In this, let's give the text as like I stick to top when scrolled. Let's assign the class here. Let's assign the class as box sticky. Okay. Okay, let's assign here the class as well. Class is box. This is fixed, right? Fixed. Okay. We have written the HTML code. Let's link the CSS file here. Style.css. Okay, let's style our HTML file by opening the CSS file. Okay, let's apply common stylings. Before that, for that I'm going to take the body tag here first. In this body tag I'm going to apply the font family as Arial, sans serif. Okay, let me open the output first. Okay. Okay, let's apply the height as 1000 px to allow the scrolling. Okay, here the scrolling is not appeared. The reason, I think I have, okay, I have given the file name as wrong. Here our file name is style.css, right? I have specified the file name as styles.css. Okay, let's give here the 1000 pixels. Sorry. Okay, if you see the right side, there is a scroll bar. It just allow you to scroll the page. Let's set the padding as 20 pixels. Okay, we have given the padding also. Okay, okay, for the box class, let's apply some few properties. Let's set the width as 200 pixels. Okay, next height as 80 pixels. Okay, if you observe the right side, there is a changes. And also set the background color so that you can understand more clearly. Background color as light gray. Let me give this one. Okay, background color. Let's set the margin. In this margin I'm going to give the 40 pixels for the top and bottom, and 0 pixels is for the left and the right. Okay, and the margin, let's set the padding for this. Padding as 10 pixels. Okay, and also set the font weight as bold. It just make our text as bold. If you observe, the text is in the bold. Okay, next give the border for this. Border as 1 px solid black. Okay, there is a border. You can also, not only you can give the solid, you can also provide the dash like that. If you give here the dash, if you observe, the border is in the dashed. Let's set it as like solid. Okay, we have apply the properties. Let me maximize this. Okay, here is our 5 values. Okay, let's see one by one. First one is the static. Let's give the comment here first. Static. What is mean by this static? Here the static value is the default position for all the elements. The element is placed normally on the page just like the browser lays it out. For the static, you can't set the top, left, right, bottom with the static. We can simply say that there is no movement, elements stay where it is. Let me show you. For that, I have assigned the class here as static, right? Okay, let me take this period and followed by the class name static. In this static, if I give here as the position property, for this position property I'm going to give the value as static, right? You can't see any difference because this is the default position. And for the static, you can't set the top, left, bottom or right. Let me show you. If I give like top equals to 10 px, if you see the right side, there is no difference, right? If I set like right as 90 px, if you see, there is no difference, right? my box is still remain the same. It is not moving. Even I can set like bottom 10 px. It is not gonna applicable. If you see, it is default position, there is no movement where it is. Okay, we can't set the top right bottom for this static value. Okay, here the next one is the relative. Let's give the comment here as relative. In this, what it does, here the element stays in the normal spot, but you can move it by using the top, left, right, bottom without affecting the other elements. Let me show you the example. In this, we have given the class name as relative, box relative. Okay, let's take the relative, the class name relative. In this, for the position property, if I give the value as relative, let's see the right side, there is no difference because it is staying on the original spot. We can move this box by using the top, left, right, bottom. Let me give like here the top as 20 pixels. It just moved from the original space to the down, right? If I set like left as 20 pixels, it shifted to the right side. Means it just moves based on its original spot. If you observe, for the relative, the box moves slightly down as well as slightly moved to the right side. Okay, let's set the background also. Here the background color as light green. Let's give like light green. Okay. Okay, this looks better. Okay, the relative is just by default it's in the normal position. You can shift this box by using this top left properties. Here now comes the absolute. Let's give the comment as absolute. Okay, what is mean by this absolute? This element is completely removed from the normal flow. It just positioned relative nearest to the parent, but it's not static. You can place it anywhere by using the top, left, right, bottom properties. Let me show you the example. Okay, in this I have assigned the two classes for the absolute. One is the container and one is the box absolute. Let's take this container. Okay, for the container, I am going to give the position relative, position as relative, and I am setting the height as 150 pixels. And let's set the background color even. Background color as, okay. If you observe, there is a background with container. This will help us. This container will help us where we will place the absolute position element. Okay. Let's take this class also. What the absolute? Absolute. Okay. In this absolute, let's give the property, position property. Let's set the value as absolute. In this, if I give here the top as 20 pixels, observe right side the carefully, left as 20 pixels. Now this is the interesting part. Here the absolute elements is placed inside this container. Since the container is positioned relatively, here the absolute element will be placed 20 pixels from the top and 20 pixels from the left of the container, but not for the page. Here the absolute positioning always look for this parent element. Here the parent element is nothing but the container. It just always looks for the nearest parent other than to be static. That's why here we have added the position for the container. We have given the position property the value as relative to the container. Okay, it just simply always look for the parent element. Let's set the background color here. Background color as aqua. Okay, this looks better. If you observe the browser here, the absolute element is placed inside the container exactly from the 20 pixels from the top and 20 pixels from the left. Here the relative shifts the element but keeps its space, and coming to the absolute, it just removes the element from the flow and positions its nearest to the parent. It just always positions is based on the closest relative parent, that is nothing but the container. Okay, let's move to the another, that is nothing but next value is fixed. Here fix, this element is always fixed to the screen no matter how much you scroll the page. In simply we can say it as like fixed as like a super glue. Let me show you the example for that. In this we have set the class name as fixed. Okay, let's take this fixed class, fixed. For this, for this position property, we are going to set the value as fixed. Okay, let's give the top as, or top, let's give the bottom as 10 pixels. It just push the element 10 pixels away from the top. Okay, let's set here as right 10 pixels. Okay, if you see the right side, this is my fixed box. Okay, here I have given the right as 10 pixels. It just push the element 10 pixels away from the right, away from the right side, and 10 pixels push the element from the bottom. Okay, let me show you. Let's set the background color also. Here the background color as orange. Okay, observe the right side. If I scroll the page, all these are not fixed, it just scrolling the boxes. But if you observe, while coming to this box, it just stick to the screen like a glue. This how the fixed will place the role in the CSS. Here these kind of values is useful for the nav bars and floating buttons and the chart buttons. For example, if you take any website, there is a, if any website, if you want to contact them, there is a chart button, right? That is fixed. How much you scroll, the button is fixed in that place only. Like that also, this fixed is, fixed value is just fixed to the screen no matter how much you scroll the page. Okay, next one is the value is sticky. Let's give the comment here as sticky. Here the sticky, it will act like a relative until you scroll the page, but it becomes fixed when you reach the certain point. Let me show you that one. Let's take the class as sticky. In this sticky, let's, for the position property, let's give the value as sticky. Sticky. In this, if I give here as top as 0 and background color as light blue. Let me show you the difference. Here I have given the top as 0. It just acts as a relative so that I can scroll the page. Here the scrolling is not enough. For that, let's set here the height as in the body session. Let's give here instead of 1000, let's set here 2000. Now let's see, it just acts as a relative. While you scroll the page, it just acts as a relative when it's reached to the certain point. Here we have given the value as top as 0. It just acts like a fixed. That means it just fixed to the screen. This how the sticky works. If I give like here 10 pixels, let's see the difference. Okay, if I scroll the page, there is a space in between this. Let me show you here. Let's give here the 50 pixels. Okay, here I'm going to scroll the page. When it reaches to the certain point as like 50 pixels, it just stick to the screen like the fixed. This how the sticky value works in the CSS. Okay, now you have understood all the CSS position properties. Now you know the now you know about the how to use the static, relative, absolute, and fixed and the sticky, and you also know how they behave differently. Try to keep practicing all these things so that you can get more knowledge about it. Here is our next topic, that is the Z index. In CSS, the Z index property controls which elements appears on the top of others whenever the elements are overlap. Just imagine you have three color papers on a table like red, yellow and green. If you want to appear this red as the top of others two, you have to stack it last, right? You have to stack these two papers at the last to appear the red on the top. That's the exactly what the Z index does in the CSS. It just controls which elements appears on the top when elements are overlap. Let's see the example. In Z index folder, let's open index.html file. In this, I'm going to set the title name as Z index example. Coming to the body session, here I'm going to create three divs. Let's set the class name as circle red and simply copy this and paste this. Let's change the class names here. Here I'm going to give as yellow, and here I'm going to give as purple. We have write the code in the HTML. Okay, let's link the CSS file. Here our CSS file is style.css. Okay, here it is. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. In this, we are going to apply all the properties. Okay, here I'm going to use the group selector to apply the same style for all the classes. First one is the circle red. Here the group selector is always separated by comma, which we have learned in the previous class. And circle yellow dot circle purple. Okay, let's use the position property here. In this, I'm going to give the absolute. Why I have given the position property is it this Z index will works only when elements position is set to relative, absolute, fixed or sticky. Otherwise, this Z index will not work. Okay, just keep it remember whenever you are using the Z index. you must use this position property, and you have to set any value like relative or absolute or fixed or sticky. Here I'm going to use the value as absolute. Okay, let's apply the few properties for these classes individually for the circle red and circle yellow, circle purple. First I'm going to take here the circle red. In this I'm going to give the background color as red. Okay, let me open the output. Okay, there is no output. Let's give here the width as 120 pixels. Observe the right side. If I set the height as 120 pixel, if you see there is a red box. I'm going to make it as a circle. To make this square as a circle, I'm going to give the border radius as 50%. You just make the square into the circle. Okay, we have given these properties. In this I'm going to use this opacity also, opacity property, to just make the transparent. Let's set as like 0.8. Okay, it is slightly transparent. Let's decrease this value as 0.5. If you observe, it is transparent, right? Let me give here the 0.7. Okay, cool. Okay, in this, okay, next apply the properties for the circle yellow class also. Circle yellow. Let's set the background color as yellow. Okay, if you observe the right side, the yellow has been visible. Next one is the circle purple. Here also I'm going to give the background color property. Let's set the color name as purple. Okay, there are three circles on my web page, but it is behind it the purple to visible. Here I'm going to give these properties. Let's set the top as let's let's set the top as 50 pixels and left as 50 pixel. Okay, not 500, 50 pixel. Okay, sorry, left as 50 pixel. Okay, then coming to the yellow, we also give the top as 90 pixels. Okay, and also the left property with 90 pixel. Okay, sorry, let me give here the column. Okay, this also set the top as value as 130 pixels, and left, for the left, let's set the value as 130 pixels. If you observe the right side, all my three circles are aligned neatly. Okay, the main theme of this Z index is to control how which element to be on the top when the elements are overlap. Here my three circles are overlapping. It just controls which elements appear to be top. To show that, let me tell you, if I want this red to be on the top, I have to give the Z index value as high as compared to this two values. Let me show you. If I give here the Z index as, sorry, Z index, I'm going to give here the value as 3. Okay, If I give here the Z index value as 2, and this also I'm going to set the Z index value as 1. If you see, the red circle is on the top because the Z index, it has the high value. If I want the yellow to be on the top, I can simply change the value as 3, and I can simply give here the value as 2. If you observe, the yellow is on the top. The just controls, this Z index controls which elements appear on the top when they are overlapped. That's about the Z index. The Z index is very useful when you are building like tool tips and drop down menus. Just simply remember that Z index controls the stacking order of the elements. That means the higher Z index means the element is closer to you, it just put on the top. If here the three circles are overlapping, according to the Z index, it just placed on the top. Here the Z index, for the yellow, the Z index value is high, so it has appeared on the top as compared to the three circles. And also keep remember, this Z index will work only when the element position is set to the relative or absolute, fixed or sticky. Okay, let's move to the another topic. Here comes our next topic, that is pseudo classes. What is this pseudo classes? A pseudo class is like a special state or condition that CSS can detect. In simply, we can say that a pseudo class lets you apply the styles to an element based on its behavior, action, or position without changing your HTML. It just tells the browser apply this style only when something special happens. For example, when you click on a button, there is a action has been performed. For suppose when the user hovers over a link, there is something action has been performed, right? In that cases only, these pseudo classes will apply this style. In this video, we are going to see some popular ones which we use all the time. Here we are going to discuss the pseudo classes. First one is hover, and second one is focus, and third active, fourth is visited, and fifth is first child. Let's see one by one. Okay, let's open the VS Code. In pseudo classes, let's open index.html file. In this, I'm going to give the title name as pseudo pseudo classes example. Coming to the body session, in this I'm going to create one heading tag with heading with pseudo classes. Let's create paragraph tag. In this I'm going to use the anchor tag. Here I'm not specifying any link. I'm going to give the here text as like hover over this link. Let me create another paragraph. In this I'm going to use one input type with text, and let's set the placeholder for this also. Placeholder attribute as click to focus. Okay, and another paragraph with button tag, just click me. Okay, and I'm going to use here the unordered list. In this I'm going to give the list of items. as first item, second item, and last one is the third item. Okay, let's link our CSS file in HTML document. Our CSS file name is style.css. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. Before that, let's open the output. Okay, here is the output, the right side. Let me maximize this. Why it's not going to be maximized? Okay, okay, cool. Okay, in this I'm going to target the anchor tag. In this, let's set the color as red. Okay, and if you see the right side, it has been applied in the red color. Okay, let's remove this underline. For that, I'm going to use the property called text decoration and giving the value as none to remove the underline. If you observe the right side, the line has been removed. Okay, let's give the comment here. First one, when mouse overs. Okay, in this I'm going to target this anchor tag, and first one is the hover class, hover pseudo class. In this I'm going to set the color as, let's give like dark green. Okay, if you observe the right side, by default it is in the red color. Whenever I keep the mouse on this link, it has been visible in the green color. The text has been visible to the green color, right? This is how the hover pseudo class works. Next, let's give the comment here as when input is focused. Let's give like click or focused so that you can understand clearly. Okay, in this I'm going to target this input. For this I'm going to use this focus pseudo class. In this I'm going to use this property border with 5 pixels, solid. Let's give the color as crimson. Observe the right side, by default it is there is no focus on this for this input field. Whenever I click inside the input box, the box border is turns into the crimson color. This how the focus pseudo class works. This is great for styling the forms. If you want to focus your forms like this, you can simply use this focus pseudo class. Okay, the next one, let's give the comment here like while button is clicked. In this I'm going to target the button click me. This button, let's give the background color for this. Background color as orange. It's going to be highlight. Okay. Before that, I need to give the pseudo class, right? Active. Whenever it is in the active, it has to be viewed in the orange color. Okay, let me show you how this works. By default, it is in the gray color. Whenever I press the button, its background changed into the orange color, right? While I'm click, it has showing in the orange color. This is the active pseudo class. It is used to style the buttons when they are in the action. Okay, if you want to show anything active and want to apply like this kind of properties, you can simply use this pseudo class active. Okay, the next one is, let's give the comment here like styling number list. Okay, in this I'm going to target the list of items and using the pseudo class as nth child as odd, and this I'm going to give the color as green. Okay, observe the right side. We have given here the pseudo class as nth child. If you observe the right side, this has been target the odd list, like first one and the third one, it is viewed in the green color, right? This is the nth child pseudo class. We can also give here, instead of nth child, if I give here like first child, the green color will be applied for my list item only, not for the others. This how you can use this the pseudo classes for better styling. Okay, let's know all the things. Pseudo classes lets you style elements based on their actions, on their positions. It is just great for the hover effects and button clicks and form inputs, and even for the list styling which we have seen just now. Pseudo classes make your website smarter and more interactive. Okay, try to practice all these things so that you can get more clarity. Okay, let's move to the another topic. Here is our the next topic, that is the pseudo elements. Here, what is mean by the pseudo elements? The pseudo elements let you style the specific parts of your element, like just the first letter or the first line, or even you can add the extra content without writing it in your HTML document. These pseudo elements are always starts with two colons, but in the pseudo classes, it always start with the single colon. But for the pseudo elements, it just starts with two colons. In this, we are going to discuss the few pseudo elements. Let's explore all the things one by one. Okay, let's open the VS Code. Let's look on it. In this, let's open the index.html file. In this, I'm going to give the title as pseudo elements example. Okay, coming to the body section, in this I'm going to create the heading as pseudo elements, sorry. Okay, let's create another heading. I'm going to take here as h2. In this, let's give like, okay, welcome to learning of this pseudo elements. Okay, before that, let's open the output side by. Okay, here is the output. Okay, in this I'm going to take one paragraph tag with lorem text of 70 words. Sorry. Okay. In this I'm going to take one input field. input with type text. In this, I'm going to use the placeholder. Okay. In this, I'm going to give the value as, just give like type something, something dot dot. Okay. It is the HTML structure. Okay, let's style this. For that, let's go to the CSS file. Before that, link the CSS file in the HTML document, link tag, and specify the CSS file, style.css. Okay, let's open the CSS file. In this CSS file, I'm going to apply the few properties for the body. In the body, I'm going to give the here, the first one is font family as Arial, sans serif. Okay, let's set the padding as 30 pixels. Okay, in this, I'm going to give, I'm going to select the h2 tag. I have already discussed the pseudo elements starts with two colons, right? Two colons. Here the first one is the pseudo element. First one is the before. In this, I'm going to use the content. That means before the content, I need to add something. You can add the text or or the symbols or anything. Let me show you. In this, I'm going to add the symbol here. For that, I can simply go to the Google. In this, I'm going to give here the star symbol. Okay, let me take any star here. Okay, I'm going to take this one. Simply copy this and going to paste in my code. Okay, side by open the output. Observe the right side. Before my heading, the symbol has been displayed. This is how the before pseudo element will works. Okay, the next one is you can also add the symbols or even the text after the heading or the text. Let me show you. I'm going to select the same heading tag h2. After that means content. After the content, let's add this emoji. Even I can give like thank you. You can see here the thank you has been added after the text. Let's set here the symbol only, not the text. It's up to you which one you choose. I'm going to take another, let me take this emoji. Let's add this. Okay. If you see this, the emoji has been added after my content. If you observe, it just doesn't disturb the HTML, it just add the before and the after the content. This is how the before and the after pseudo element works. Let's move to the another element, pseudo element. Let's give the comment here. First line. Let's give styles only the first line. By reading the comments only, you can understand how these pseudo elements are going to work. Okay, in this, I'm going to target this paragraph. It's lorem ipsum paragraph. For that, I'm going to use here the pseudo element is the first line. In this, I'm going to set the color as blue. Observe the right side, and let's give the font weight as bold. If you observe the right side, this tells only the first line of the paragraphs, and also it becomes the blue and the bold. Here I have given the pseudo element the first line because the color will be applied, the color and the font weight will be applied only for the first line, not for the others. This how this first line pseudo element will works. If you want to style anything separately, and you if you want to highlight anything, then you can use this pseudo element. Okay, the next one is the first letter pseudo element. Let's give the comment here like first letter pseudo element styles the first letter. Okay, in this I'm going to target the paragraph, and the pseudo element is the first letter. In this I'm going to give the font size as 50 pixels. Observe the right side, the size has been increased for this first letter. And let's set the color for this letter as red. If you see, if I want to highlight my first letter, I have used the first letter pseudo class and apply the few properties like font size and the color. By using this first letter pseudo element, you can highlight this first letter. Okay, the next one is selection. Selection. Let's give here changes when the text is selected. Okay, in this let's target the paragraph. Okay, in this we are going to use the selection pseudo element. Okay, in this I want to give here the background color as orange. Okay, let's see the right side. Whenever I select the text, the background color will be visible in the orange color, right? If you observe, or whenever I have selected, that is visible in the orange color. Okay, this how this selection pseudo element will works. Okay, the next one is the placeholder. That let's give the text as like styles the placeholder. Text inside the input. Okay, in this I'm going to target this input field. Input, here the pseudo element is the placeholder. Okay, for this I'm going to give here the color as green. If you observe in this field, the color has been in the green color. The text is in the green color, right? And let's give the font style also here. The font style as italic. Okay. The font style has been changed to the italic. You can style the placeholder text inside the input boxes to here. If you observe, it is visible in the italic with green color. Okay. Okay, let's wrap up all the things. Here the pseudo elements allows you to style the parts of an element, or you can add the content before the text, or you can add the content after the text without disturbing your HTML. Instead of emojis or the symbols, You can also add the text which we have seen with the text of thank you, and we have used the first line here. In this, the first line is visible in the blue color, not the other. And coming to the first letter, we have highlighted the first letter by using this first letter pseudo element. And coming to the selection pseudo element, you can if you select this text, the background color has been changed to the orange color also. And coming to this, you can style your like input fields also. Okay, use this first line and the first letter and the selection to style your text in a creative ways. Try to practice all these pseudo elements. This will make your website feel more interactive and polished. Okay, let's move to the another topic. The next topic is the flex box. What is mean by this flex box? The flex box is a layout model that will allows you to arrange the items in a row as well as the column, and also control how they grow or shrink and wrap inside a container. And it also make it easier to design the flexible layouts structure without using these float and positioning properties. Okay, let's see the example. Let's open the VS Code. In this flexbox, open index.html file. In this, I'm going to set the title as flexbox example. Coming to the body section, let's create the heading tag with the text. I'm going to give the text as like flexbox layout. And let's create a simple div with the class container. Let's assign the class name as container. Under this, I'm going to create three divs to give the items. Three items. Let's give the text as like item 1, new item 2, item 3. Okay, let's assign the class for these three items. I'm going to assign the same class name. Let's give the class name as like same as item. Okay, I'm going to set this class name for all the divs. Okay, okay, we have set the class for the three items. Okay, let's link the CSS file first. Okay, okay, let's go to the CSS file. Okay, let's apply the few styles for the container and the item, and also know about this display flex and their properties. Before that, let's open the output. Okay, there is no output. Okay, let me open the output. Okay, here is the output in the CSS file. I'm going to target this container class. In this container, I'm going to give the height as 200 pixels, and the border for this is 2 pixels with solid gray. Okay, there is a border at the right side. In this, I'm going to give here the display property as flex. It is going to give the items side by side. And next one is the justify content, as let's give here the space between. Okay, if I have given here the value as space between, that means it just give the space for the items equally. Okay, before that, let's style for the item class also. For the item, I'm going to set here the background color as aquamarine. Okay, let's set the width as 120 pixels and height as 100 pixels. Okay, and let's set the border also for this. In this, the border I can give like 1 px solid. Let's give the blue color. Okay, the border is visible right now. Okay, coming to the container, we have given here the justify content as the space between. Observe clearly, if I give here, instead of the space between, if I give here the flex start, it is going to be start at the start of the container. All my items are going to be at the start of the container. Before that, let's give the gap here, gap property as 50 pixels. It gives the gap for the flex items. If you observe, the items has the gap in between them is the 50 pixels. Okay, if I give here the flex start, it is the all the items are going to be start at the start of the container. And if I give, instead of the start, if I give the end, it is going to be at the end of the container. Okay, if I give here the space evenly, it's going to give the space for all the items evenly. If you observe, the space are being equally distributed for all the items. Okay, let's keep a space between. Okay, the next one is align items. Okay, let's give the align items. In this, I'm going to keep here as center. Okay, here the align items, you can see that it just opposite to the main axis. That means it will here we have vertically centered the items. I have given here the center. Instead of center, if I give here the flex start, all my items will be at the top of my container. Observe the right side, all my items is at the top of the container. If I give here the end, all my items at the bottom of the container. Okay, let's set it to the center. It is just opposite to the main axis. That means the main axis is nothing but the horizontal, but these align items or must be placed like a vertical. It just opposite to the main axis. Okay, in this I'm going to give one property as flex direction as row. If you observe, by default all my items are in the row. That means the horizontal, that is the main axis. Okay, let me show you. If I give here as row reverse, all my items are going to be reversed. That means the item 3 will be displayed at first, and the item 2 will be displayed at second, and item 1 will be displayed at the last. Instead of row, I can use the column also. If I give the column, all my items will be displayed from top to the bottom. You can also reverse your items by using the color reverse value. If you observe, the item 3 will be appeared at the top, and the item 2 will be displayed at the second, and the item will be displayed at the bottom. This how you can set the flex direction by using these values. Okay, let's set it to row again. Okay, in this, next I am going to give here the flex warp. Flex warp as warp. Okay, let me show you. Here the flex warp means this will tell the items, this will tell the items if there should be warp on a new line. That means if there is any there is no enough space, it just these all these items are moved to the next line. Let me show you so that you can get more clarity. If I inspect this and try to minimize this, now my items are in the horizontal, right? Let me show you. If I going to minimize this, if there is no enough space, all my items will be displayed in the next line. It just moved to the next line. That is the property of this flex bar. If there is no enough space, all the items or shift to the next line. Okay, this is very good for the responsive for your websites. And you can, if you don't need any warp, if you want to keep your items on single line, then you can use here, instead of warp you can set as no warp. It can keep your items in on single line only. Let me show you. If I minimize this, the items are not moving to the next line, it will be displayed only on the same line, right? This how the flex warp property will works. Okay, let keep, instead of no warp, let's keep into the warp. Let me show you again. Here the items are displayed like a column, right? This how the flex warp works. Okay, next go to this item. In this I'm going to give the flex grow property as value as 1. This will simply grow my items. If you observe, this will controls how my items grows relative to the others, right? Here all items grows equally because we have given the grow value as 1. Okay, next property is the flex shrink. In this also I'm going to give here the value as 1. Here the flex shrink, this will tells the item how much to shrink when the space is tight. Let me show you. Before that, let me comment this. Okay, if I inspect this and try to minimize this browser, all my items will be only on single line, but it can't move to the next line. That means, however the space is tight, this will tell the item to stay only on the single line, but it can't move to the next line. Okay, this is how the flex shrink works. Okay, let's go back to the code and let's remove the comment here. These are the flex properties which is used in the flex. It is very good for the responsive layouts. You can use this flex box for the horizontal menus and the cards and even the nav bars. It's responsive by default, especially if we have seen that the flex warp, if there is no enough space, automatically it just move to the next line, right? This will play the major role. Try to keep practice all these things so that you can get the more clarity. Okay, let's move to the next topic. Here is our next topic, that is the CSS grid. What is mean by this grid? In CSS, the grid is a two-dimensional layout system. That means it controls both the rows and the columns at the same time. But in the flex box, we can handle only one direction at the time. Either it may be the row or the column. Okay, This CSS grid is super useful for building the modern websites that look clean and flexible and even the more responsive. Okay, let's see the example so that you can get more clarity. Okay, let's open the VS Code. In this grid folder in index.html, I'm going to set the title name as grid example. Coming to the body session, in this I'm going to create the heading tag, that is nothing but simple grid. In this, let's create one div. For this, let's assign the class name as, let's give like grid container. Grid container, that is nothing but the parent class. Under this div, I'm going to create the list of items. I'm going to create 5 items here. Okay, div. Let's set the item 1. Simply copy this and paste it 5 times. Okay, let's change the number. 2 and 3. Okay, 4, and the last one is 5. Okay, let's assign the same class name for all the divs. Okay, let's set like grid item. Simply copy this. I'm going to paste in other items to assign the same class. Okay, we have assigned the same class name. In this item 1, I'm going to give another class name, the special class name, that is the item 1. Okay, we are going to give some grid properties in the CSS. I will tell you more clearly. Okay, let's go to the CSS 5. And this, let's target this grid container, that is nothing but the parent container. Okay, grid container. Before that, let's link the CSS file in HTML document. Our CSS file name is style.css. Okay, let's open the output. Okay, here is our output. Let me drag this. Okay, perfect. In this, let's set the background color. Background color as light gray. Okay, in this, I'm going to give the padding as 10 pixels, and in this grid container, I am turning it into a grid because we are discussing about the grid. We can't see any changes right now. Okay, before that, let's apply the few styling for all these boxes for these items. Let's create the background color. In this, to apply the same style for all these items, we are going to target this class, the grid item. The grid item. Okay, let's set the background color as, let me take this blue violet. Okay, okay, let's give the border as 1 pixels with solid black. Okay, there is the border, and in this I'm going to give the font weight to make the text bold. Okay, okay, the text is in the bold. Let's apply the padding to give the spacing 40 pixels. Okay, okay, that's cool. We have, okay, I'll show you the grid properties. First one is the grid template column. If I give here 100 pixels and 200 pixel and 200 pixels, it is going to create the three columns. Observe the right side. If you observe, it has created the three columns. Instead of these pixels, you can also create fraction. I'm going to create here one FR. Here FR stands for one fraction. That means it is going to create the three width columns with equal space. Okay, if you observe, it has give the three columns with equal width. Okay, I'm going to create for the rows also grid template rows. Let's set 100 pixels. If I give 200 pixels, the height should be increased. Observe the right side. If you observe, the first row is in the 100 pixels as height, and coming to the second row, the height of this item box is 200 pixels. Let's set it to 100 pixels, not the 200 pixels. Okay, this looks cool. Okay, in this I'm going to give the gap for these boxes because all are merged, right? Let's give the gap here as 20 pixels is enough as of now. Okay, this looks more better. In this, instead of 1 px, I am going to give here the 2 px because the border line is not visible clearly. Okay, right? That looks perfect. Okay, let's apply the few grid properties for this item 1 class. In this, I'm going to target this item 1 with item 1, and this I'm going to give the property as grid column start at 1. Observe carefully in this, the grid column starts at 1. This is the 1, and this is the 2, and this is the 3, and this is the 4. Observe clearly, if the grid column is starts at 1, if I give here the grid column, the first item need to be ends at 3. If I give like that, the item will be displayed from this position to this and ends with here. Observe carefully, column, and if I give here the 3, observe, it has started with 1 from one column and ends with before the 3 column. So it takes the 2 span columns, right? Let's apply the property for the row also. Let's take the grid row start. Okay, I'm going to give here start at 1. Here, if you observe, this is the first position of the row, and this is the second, and this is the third, and my row starts with 1. If I want my row to be end at 3, let's set it as grid row end as 3. Let's see the right side. It has taken up to 3. Okay, so here it takes the span of 2 rows, right? Okay, let's set it here. The column ends with 4, and here I'm going to give here the 2. That will looks good. Okay, if you observe, this item 1 is a big block covering every multiple cells in the grid, right? If you observe, the item 1 will become big block and covering the multiple cells in the grid. That's how the CSS grid to make a flexible layout and lets you the items to take more space by controlling their grid lines. This is a super useful way when you are designing the dashboards, cards, and image galleries or any modern web layout. Try to practice these things so that you can get more grip on this grid property. Okay, let's move to the another topic. Here is our next topic, that is the CSS units. Basically, the CSS units are used to control the layout and the sizing, and it is also used to build the responsive layouts. In this CSS, there are two main types of units. One is absolute units and relative units. We have seen absolute units up to now, like the pixels. Under the relative units, we come the percentage, EM and REM, viewport height and viewport width. Let us know one by one. Okay, let's open the VS Code. In this CSS units, let's open index.html file. Let's set the title as CSS unit example. Okay, coming to the body session, let's create the heading tag which heads to. Let's give like CSS units. Okay, in this I'm going to create few divs. Div. In this I'm going to give the text as like this is a box. Okay, let's create the another div. Okay, this is a box with a relative to the body. Okay, let's give another div tag, and this let's text, give this as font size as font size is, let's give like relative to the parent font. Okay, let's create another div. In this let's give the text like same as font size is relative to the root font. Okay, let's create another div. In this let's give the text, this is used to set the viewport width, and another div, this is used to set the viewport height. Okay, okay, let's assign the class for all these things. I'm going to assign the class name as box with px hyphen box. Okay, let's assign for this also class as box, and another class is percent box. For this let's assign the class name as box pm box. Okay, for this let's assign the class name as box rem box. Your class name should be very meaningful, and let's give the class here also the box. Let's set the viewport with box, and last one, the class as box with viewport height box. Okay, let's link the CSS file also, style.css. Okay, let's open the output. Okay, here is our output. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. Okay, let's target the body and apply the few styles for the body. Let's set the font family as Arial, sans serif. Sorry, font family as. Let's remove here Arial, sans serif. Okay, let's give the padding also. Let's set the padding as 20 pixels. Okay, let's target the box class. Let me show you the box class. Here we are going to target this box class. Okay, for that period followed by the class name, and this let's give the margin bottom as 20 pixels, and let's set the padding for this as 10 pixels. Okay, let's set the background color as light blue. Okay, for this let's set the border also. Let's give 1px with solid, 0. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now let's see the relative and the absolute units. First one, we are going to target this pixel box class. Okay, let's take it class name and follow period and followed by the class name px box. Okay, let's give the width as 200 pixels. That could be better. Okay, here the pixels px is nothing but the pixels. It gives you the fixed size that it does not depend on any parent element. That means it is useful when you want precision. For example, if you want to set the icon sizes or borders or buttons, simply we can say that if you want any fixed size, you can use this pixels. Then next one is the percentage, that is nothing but the relative unit. Okay, let's target this class percent box period followed by the class name. Okay, in this let's give the width as 50%. Okay, here it is, this percentage is relative to the width of the parent element. For suppose if the parent is 800 pixels, then 50% means the 400 pixels. Here the direct parent in this case is the body tag. Okay, next one is the em. Let's target this class em box dot em. Okay, in this let's give the font size as 2em. Here em is mostly used for the font sizes. It just relative to the font size of its parent. For suppose if the parent has the font size as 16 pixels, here 2m means it's double, that means 32. In this case, the parent element is the body. Here by default, this body has the font size is 16 pixels. We have given here the 2m, that means double. 2 into 16, that is nothing but the 32 pixels. Okay. All these units are to make your website more responsive. Okay, the next one is rem. For that, let's target this class. Okay, in this, let's set the font size as 2rem. Here rem is nothing but the root em. It always related to the HTML font size. That is nothing but by default the HTML tag will contains the font size as 16 pixels. Here we have given the 2rem. That means it is going to take the 32 pixels, right? It always depends on the parent element, that is nothing but the HTML element. Okay. This is this rem is more consistent than em, especially in the large apps. Okay, the next one we have is viewport width. Let's target this class. Let's give this class name and set the width as 50 viewport width. Okay. Here VW is nothing but the viewport width. Here the one viewport width is equals to the 1% of the browser width. So here we have given the 50 viewport width, right? So it will takes the half screen width regarding of its the parent. So here we have given the 50 viewport width. That means it takes the half of the screen width. This viewport width is useful for the full width sections or for the responsive banners. Let me maximize this. This will take almost the full, right? It always depends on the parent element, em, and this depends on the root element. And coming to the viewport width, it has taken the half screen width. Okay, the next one we have is viewport height. For that, let's focus on this class name, that is nothing but this viewport height box. Here VH is nothing but viewport height. Let's give here the height as 20 VH, that is nothing but viewport height. Let's set the background color as light coral. Okay, here it is. Okay, here 1 VH is 1% of the browser height. Here we have given the 20 viewport height, right? That means the 20% of the screen height. These viewport heights are mainly useful for doing the hero sections or the full screen headers or even for the vertical spacing. Maximize this. Let's inspect this. Okay. If I minimize this, look at the first box, no matter how much the big or the small the browser is, it just the box stay exactly the same size because this is a fixed unit because we have used the pixels, right? No matter how much you minimize the screen, it will stay fixed. But coming to the this width, the second box which we have applied the width as percentage 50%. As I shrink or expand the browser, it grows or this shrinks on the width of its parent, right? And coming to these em and rem boxes also, these units will control based on their either parents or the root element, that is nothing but the html. If the browser, if you increase the browser or zoom, the base font will change. In the css you can see that the boxes are scaling up according automatically, not automatically, right? And coming to this viewport width and the viewport height, here nothing but vh we have given here as, let me open the code. Here we have given the VW is 50 and the height as 20 VH, nothing but viewport height. If I try to resize now, you can see this box also scales up and down, right? You can see here, okay? This how the CSS units are very helpful to control the layout and the sizing and also to build the responsive layouts. Okay, let's move to the another topic. Here is our next topic, that is the CSS transform and transitions. What is CSS transform? The transform property modifies the appearance of your element by changing its position, size, rotation, or shape without affecting the actual layout around it. In this, we're going to apply the translate to move, and the scale and rotate and skew. And coming to the transition, what is mean by this transition? In this CSS, the transition property makes changes to the CSS values happen smooth transitions over time instead of doing instantly. To get the more clarity, let's see the example. Okay, let's open the VS Code. In this CSS transitions folder, in this I'm going to use the image, that is nothing but this car. Okay, let's open index.html file. Let's set the title as CSS transform and transitions. Okay, coming to the body section, let's create the heading tag. In this I'm going to give the text as like CSS transform with transition with transitions. Okay, in this I'm going to create the div. Under this div I'm going to use the image tag. Here my image name is car.png. Okay, let's give the text as car image. Okay, in this I'm going to create another div. In this I'm going to give the text as like translate. Okay, let's assign the class for this div. In this I'm going to assign the class as car box translate. Okay, okay, I'm going to assign the class for this image also. Let's set the class name as car. For this div I'm going to give the class name as label. Okay, okay, I'm going to simply copy this and paste it here for another values. Okay, instead of translate I'm going to give here as rotate. Okay, I'm not going to change the class name for the image, and for this div also I want to change here the text. I'm going to give here the text as like rotate so that we can understand. Okay, simply copy this and paste it here. Instead of rotate I'm going to give here the scale. Okay, let's change the text as into the scale. Okay, Again copy this and paste it. Instead of scale, let's give like skew. Okay, and change the text also skew. Okay, and also link the css file in this document. Okay, css file is style.css. Okay, let's open the output. Okay, here is our output. Let me, okay, expand this. Okay, we have, I have used four images for different values for the translate, rotate, scale and skew. Let's see one by one. For that, let's go to the css file. Okay, let's give the comment like translate. Okay, in this I'm going to target this class translate and also the car, this car class. Okay, translate, and I'm going to use here the hover state, hover with car class. In this I'm going to use the transform property. For this I'm going to assign the translate. Okay, that's look good. Okay, here the translate means it moves the element horizontally and also the vertically. That means the x-axis and the y-axis. Let me show you. If I give here as 100 pixels as left and 150 pixels as y-axis, let me show you. If I hover on this first car image, it just moved to the x-axis, also the y-axis. Let me get you the clarity, more clarity. Let me remove this. If I define here as x, let me show you, it just moved to the right side. That means the x-axis. Here it is. If I hover on this car, the car has moved to the right side. Instead of x, if I give here y, that means if instead of x, if I give y, it will goes to the down. If I give here the negative value, it will goes in the up direction. That means the opposite direction. Let me show you. It has, the car has gone upside. Okay, let's keep this. The next one is rotate. Let's give the command as rotate. Okay, in this I'm going to target the rotate class, rotate and hover state with car class. In this, use the transform property and use the value as rotate, rotate. Okay, here the rotate will spin the element around its center. If I give here the 45 degrees, it just rotates my car in the clockwise. Let me show you. If I hover on this second car, the car has been rotated to the 45 degrees. Okay, okay, let me give here the degrees I have missed. Okay, if you observe, my car has inclined to the 45 degrees. Let's set it at like 20 degrees, not 45 degrees. Okay, if you observe, my car has been rotated to 20 degrees. Next, coming to the scale, and this also I'm going to target this class, scale class, and this image class, that is nothing but the car. Okay, let's scale class period and followed by the class name and hover state and the car class. In this, for the transform property, I'm going to assign the scale. That means it just increases your element, like it just increases your width and the height of that element. Let me show you. If I give the scale as 1.5, observe the right side, if I hover on this, the height and the width of my car has been increased. This is how the scale value will works. Then next one is the skew. Let's see that one also. Okay, skew. In this, we are going to target this class, that is nothing but skew and the car class. Skew and hover effect with car class. In this, I am going to give the transform property. In for this, we are going to give the skew. In this, we have to mention the degrees. If I give here here the skew slants the element along the x or y axis. Let me show you. If I give here the x axis to 20 degrees, it just slants my element, that is nothing but the car. If you observe, it just slants my car to the x axis. If I, instead of x, if I give y, it just slants to the y axis. This is how the transform works. Let's see about these transitions. Okay, let me iterate again. The first one is the translate. Here the translate is used to move the element as x-axis as well as the y-axis. And coming to the rotate, it is used to spin your element by giving the degrees, right? Okay, then coming to the scale, by using this scale value, you can resize your element to increase the width and the height. It is used for the zoom effects. And coming to the skew, it just slants your element for the x-axis as well as the y-axis. It is good for the 3D effects. Okay, and I'm going to take the label class here. Let's apply two properties. For the label, let's set the font weight to highlight the text to get more understandable. Font weight as bold. Okay, and let's set the margin top also. For this, margin top as 110 pixels. Okay, this looks good. Okay, for the smooth transitions, let's apply the transition property. In this car, for this car, I'm going to apply the transition property. The transition property, for this, I'm going to give here the all. Here, this all will tells the browser that apply the transition to all my animatable properties. And coming to, in this, I'm going to give like 0.5 seconds. Here, this is nothing but the duration of the transition. That means how long it takes to complete this animation. And coming to, if I give here the ease, this is nothing but ease is the timing function, how the speed changes over the time. If you observe the previous and now, there is a smooth transitions is going on my output. If you observe my element, there is a smooth transition, right? Instead of ease, here the ease means it will by default start slow and speeds up and end very slowly. If I, instead of ease, if I give here the ease in, let me show you. It will start slowly, then speeds up. Okay, let's give here the ease out. Here the ease out starts very fast and slows down. Let me show you. Okay, this how these timing functions will work. Let me keep like ease. If you observe, all are doing very smooth transition as compared to the before. This how the transition work. CSS transforms lets you move and spin, resize, or even you can slant your elements. And coming to the transition, it just give you the smooth transition to look more beautiful. Okay, try to practice all these things so that you can get more knowledge about these transforms with transitions. Okay, let's move to the next topic. Here is our the next topic, that is the CSS animations. What is mean by the CSS animations? In CSS, the animation lets you gradually change the style of your element over time, like moving, rotating, or even changing the colors and more without using the JavaScript. Okay, let's see the example to get the more clarity. Okay, in the CSS animation, let's create the index.html file and CSS file. You can specify the name whatever you want. Let's create another file as style.css. Okay, in index.css file, let me close this all these files. Okay, in index.html file, let's set the title as animation example. Okay, coming to the body section, in this I'm going to create the heading as CSS animations. Okay, under this I'm going to create one div with class. Let me give here the space, class name as ball. Okay, let's link the CSS file in this HTML document, style.css. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. Okay, let's open the output. There is nothing, right? Okay, in this, let's target this ball class. In this, I'm going to set the width as 80 pixels and height as 80 pixels. Let's set the background color as orange. Okay, to make this square into the circle, I'm going to use the border radius as 50 percentage. Okay, in this I'm going to use the position property as relative. By default it is the static. We can use the top, left, right, bottom values, right? In this I'm going to use the keyframes. What is mean by these keyframes? A keyframes in a CSS will allow you to create the animations by defining how an element should look at the specific points. Let me show you. In this, I can name it as like bounce. You can give the name whatever you need. Okay. In this, we are using the keyframes to define the steps of the animations. Let's give the 0% here. For the 0%, I'm going to keep the top as 0 because the ball starts at the top as 0. For this, let's set the background color as orange because the ball starts at the top, and so that's why I'm keeping the default color as orange. Okay, and coming to the, let's give like 25 percentage. At that 25 percentage, my background color of the ball should be in the red color. Let's give the red. Okay, at 50 percentage, at 50 percentage, I'm going to give here the top value as 150 pixels. That means it going to 150 pixels lower than where it started. At 50%, the background color should be, and the background color, let's give like blue. At 75 percentage, let's set the background color as green. Okay, at 100 percentage. In this, I'm going to keep the top as 0. We bring it to back again. So that's why I'm assigning the 0. So it goes to the original spot. Let's set the background color for this as again the orange, because it will go to the original spot. So that's why I gave again the orange. Okay. This creates a fun bounce and color change effect. To look the animations in this, we have to use the animation property, and you have to use this bounce, and this whatever the name you will give, you have to specify here. Let's give the bounce, and duration of this animation is 2 seconds. Let's give, and how many times you want this. If I give like infinite, it will continually bounce the infinite times. Okay. If you see, observe at 0% at the top, it is showing the orange. When it becomes 25%, it going to be red, and at the 50 percentage, it becomes the blue, and 75 percentage, it is showing like the green color. When it's reached to the original spot, it is going to visible in the orange color. And that's it about the animations. We have created a fun bouncing ball that changes the colors using only the CSS without using the JavaScript. Try to practice more about these animations. You will get more knowledge about it. Let's move to the another topic. Here is our last topic, that is this media queries. Basically, these media queries help us to make our web pages responsive. That means the layout and the style can adjust according to our screen sizes, like for the phones, tablets, and desktops. Why should we use these media queries? Because not all the users view your website on the same device, right? Phones are small and the tablets are the medium, even the laptops and the monitors have very large in screen size, right? Instead of creating three different websites, so that we can create these media queries to style one website responsively. Okay, let's look the example to get the more clarity. Okay, let's open the VS Code in this index.html file. Let's give the title name as media queries example. Let's give here like, okay, coming to the body section, let's create the heading. Let's give the heading as like CSS media queries. And coming to the next, let's give the div tag, and this give the text like I will change the screen according to screen. Okay, let's assign the class for this as box. Okay, let's link the CSS file in this HTML file style.css. Okay, let's go to the CSS file. Okay, here comes the most interesting. We can set according to the screen sizes. For that, let's give the comment as small screens. In this, let's give at the rate media as max width is 600 pixels. This lets the box becomes, let's give here the background color. Let's give here like something. Let's give the brown, and font size font size as 1.125 em. That means nothing but the 18 pixels. Okay. In this, the media query will targets the mobile screen, anything the 600 pixels or wide or less. At this time, the background color becomes this brown color and the text size is reduced to 18 pixels. So it fits better. Let me show you that one. If I inspect this, if when my screen becomes the 600, observe here at the upside, whenever it becomes the 600, it's going to be changed to the brown color. Okay, in between this, my screen is in the box is in the green color, right? Sorry, not green, it's brown color. Okay. Okay, let's see for the medium screens. Let me show that one also. Okay, let's remove this. Okay, let's create for this medium screens. Let's give the comment like medium screens, and this give at the rate media. Let's give here the min width as 601 because we have given here 600. Let's give here 601 pixels, and let's set the max width of the screen 1024 pixels. Okay, in this, let's target the box. This give the background color. Background color, let's give here as, let's me give here the teal color. Okay, and this, let's set the font size as 1.25 em. That is nothing but the 20 pixels. If you see the right side, let me expand this. By default, this is in the royal blue. If I inspect this, the range in between the 601 to 1024 pixels in the screen will be appear in the teal color. If you see, there it is. The box will be visible in the teal color. Okay. Let's see for the large screens. Let's give the comment. Large screens. Okay. At the rate media. Let's set the min width is, let's give like 1025 pixels, and this. Okay, let's give the box. For this box, the background color need to be changed. Again, the royal blue. Okay, let's set the font size also. We are telling that for the big screens, my box background should be in the royal blue and the font size would become the 24 pixels. So let me give here like 1.5 em. Okay, let me show you. Simply, I'm going to inspect this. Let me give here. If you observe here, whenever I'm going to increase my screen at 1025 pixels, at 1025 pixels, it is going to be visible in the royal blue color. Okay, that means this media is going to target the large screens, right? We in this, at that time, we are going to change the background to the royal blue. That means here for the desktop, anything the larger than 1024 pixels, we just go back to the royal blue and keep the font size as like to 24 pixels. And that's how you can use the media queries to build the responsive and flexible and the modern websites. Try to resize your browser. You will see that the changing the colors of your screen based on your screen's width. Let me show you the one thing also. This is the desktop view. If you want to view in this mobile phones, you can use here. This is the iPad Pro. This how the websites will look in this. If you want to see in the mobile phones, you can set here iPhone 12. That will be changed according to the screen size. We have given the 600 pixels. The background should be appeared in the brown color. If I give for the iPad mini, we have given the color that should be appeared in the teal color for the range of 601 to 1024 pixels. Try to keep practicing about these media queries so you can do the responsive websites. That's all about for this video. In this video, we have covered all these topics. These 11 topics, that is nothing but CSS display, position, Z index, pseudo classes, pseudo elements, flexbox, CSS grid, CSS units, CSS transform and transitions, and we have seen the CSS animations and the media queries. These are the most important topics in the CSS. Try to keep practicing all these things so that you can get more clarity. Okay, if you like my video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can't miss the next video. Okay, bye bye.